Despite Arsenal offering a massive sum of money and Fiorentina willing to do a deal, Dusan Vlahovic's people so far have remained unconvinced about Arsenal, but have the Gunners today offered the Serbian a massive 5-year contract. Also, has Kolasinac officially left the club, and is Thomas Partey set for an Arsenal return? Yo, what is going on, guys? My name is Babs14 and welcome back to your boys channel. Another day of the transfer window, another day of Arsenal transfer news, so smash a like on the video if you do enjoy and subscribe to the channel if you are new and help your boy on his road to 80,000 subscribers. But getting into the Arsenal transfer news, and let's start off with Mr. Dusan Vlahovic. Because in terms of Arsenal and Fiorentina, this has actually never been the issue, and that's actually been confirmed today by Mr. Fabrizio Romano himself, who has confirmed that Fiorentina have no problem in selling Dusan Vlahovic in this window should Arsenal make a good proposal. The obstacle has always been the player and his agents. But how on earth are Arsenal now going to change this? Well, according to Fabrizio Romano, he says if Arsenal want to change the current situation, they need to do something crazy with the player and his agents, as Fiorentina are open to starting talks. In the summer, Vlahovic could be an option for many clubs. This is why Arsenal are pushing in January. Arsenal clearly understand how in demand this player is, and what they know is come to some of the likes of Man City, Juventus, Atletico Madrid and other small clubs like Tottenham will want to sign Mr. Dusan Vlahovic, alongside the fact that Arsenal could of course secure Champions League football. This is why Arsenal are so intense on paying the premium in this transfer window. What Fabrizio also says is that Arsenal need to do something crazy, and when he says crazy, what he means is Arsenal need to put a lot of money on the table. And on that today, there are some very interesting reports coming out of Italy, as they are reporting that an offer will arrive via email from Arsenal to Fiorentina, 70 million euros to the club, a salary of 90 million euros for a 5-year contract for the player, and maxi commissions to be turned over to Vlahovic's entourage. All in all, this transfer could cost Arsenal upwards of 100 million euros. So when Fabrizio Romano says that Arsenal need to do something crazy, it looks like at least Arsenal might be willing to do that. Ultimately speaking, I think this goes back to the agent in terms of how much are Arsenal willing to put on the table in terms of commission fees, because in terms of the last transfer window, it's very well noted that Arsenal didn't pay any sort of massive agent fees, and I think this is why we're seeing all the same type of reports circulating every single day. This transfer right now is at a standstill, and that's because in terms of Arsenal, they are considering whether they want to pay the agent the sort of money he's looking for, or will they look elsewhere and move on to other transfer targets. This, my friends, goes back to Edu Gaspar and of course also Arsenal's chief negotiator in Richard Garlick. But what do you guys make at the fact that Arsenal could spend potentially over £100 million on Mr. Dusan Vlahovic, and in your humble opinion, do you think he's worth that sort of money? But will Mr. Dusan now accept Arsenal's proposal? Let's find out hopefully in tomorrow's episode. On to a bit of confirmed transfer news, and that is that Kolasinac contract has been terminated by mutual consent, and he will now join Marseille as a free agent. He leaves Arsenal after almost 5 years at the club. Kolasinac, aka Mesut Ozil's bodyguard, is on his way out, of course having earned over £100,000 a week at Arsenal. Arsenal have bought this guy's contract out, and now he is officially a free agent. And even in terms of Marseille, they've officially announced today that Kolasinac is officially a Marseille player. And in the process, Kolasinac becomes the 5th player in a year to agree a mutual termination with Arsenal, who are effectively paying these players to go away. I think what we've noticed in the past year is how bad the regime was prior to the likes of Edu Gaspar and Mikel Arteta, because the wages the old regimes offered the likes of Kolasinac and Mustafi and co, it was just obscene. When you have players on such massive wages, no other club will want to sign them, and that's why Arsenal have unfortunately had to terminate these guys' contracts. But at least on the positive side, Arsenal are getting these players who are seen as deadwood out of the club, with Mr. Edu Gaspar unleashing his inner contract terminator. And now that Kolasinac has left the club, that means that Arsenal have space for 3 more non-homegrown players in their Premier League squad. So funny enough, now Arsenal have more space to sign some players, but the fact that you also have the £100,000 a week, I guess, off the bill now, in terms of Arsenal going into future transfers, it gives Arsenal more wage space to sign a massive gargantuan player. And that now means in terms of confirmed Arsenal transfers in this transfer window, you've got Maitland-Niles going to Roma, Balogun going to Middlesbrough, Pablo Mori to Udinese, and now Kolasinac to Marseille. But overall, they are all outgoings, and in terms of us Arsenal fans, we are an impatient bunch, and right now we are all knocking on the doors of Mr. Edu Gaspar, Mr. Richard Garlick and Mikel Arteta. My friends, I think the time has arrived to sign some players. Okay, moving on to Arsenal's crisis in central midfield. As you guys are aware, Arsenal have had a couple players away at AFCON, and one being Mohamed Elneny and the other being the Ghanaian excellence of Thomas Partey. But talking about Ghanaian excellence, well, let's talk about a Ghanaian disaster class, because in Ghana's last group stage game of the African Cup of Nations, they lost 2-3 to Comoros, which left Ghana bottom of the group stages and knocked out of the African Cup of Nations, which in turn has now confirmed the return of Thomas Partey to Arsenal. I do want to apologise to all the Ghanaian Arsenal fans that I may have offended, but I watched the game, and by the way, that referee, that was never a red card in the first half. But in terms of Thomas Partey, as Charles Watt says, it's awful news for him, but a massive boost for Arsenal, who could even potentially have him back for the game against Burnley. Now this could be seen as a bit of an Arsenal masterclass, because if he was to play in that game on the weekend, that means that Thomas Partey would have missed 0 Premier League games whilst away on international duty. When I say that Arsenal are playing 4D chess, this is what I mean. Yes, Arsenal have played a few games in the Cup, but in terms of our last game in the Premier League, it was against Man City on the first day of the new year, where we saw Thomas Partey masterclass. But since then, of course, Arsenal have postponed their game against Tottenham, so let's just say, my friends, we're not playing checkers, we are playing chess, as essentially speaking, one of the integral parts of the spine technically has missed 0 Premier League games, which in terms of Arteta, Granit Xhaka, I guess you can say as well, and Arsenal is a bit of a masterclass. But also in terms of the game on Thursday, I've seen quite a few Arsenal fans ask the question of could Thomas Partey be available for that game, but with that game being in less than 48 hours, unfortunately I think this is very unlikely. But in terms of Arsenal, what these guys need to do is send a private jet over to wherever Partey is and bring him back to London ASAP, and then maybe, just maybe, Arsenal might be able to have Partey potentially on the bench against Liverpool on Thursday. Moving on to Arsenal's central midfield targets, of course one has been Artemelo, and in terms of the Brazilian today, he started for Juventus once again, 2 starts in 2, and dropped in a pretty decent performance, dropping a 7.8 rating, getting 1 assist, 3 key passes, 87 accurate passes, 1 out of 1 accurate long ball, 1 out of 1 successful dribble, and also 4 out of 4 ground duels won. So Juventus beat Sampdoria 4-1, but in terms of myself, I did not watch his game, so I refused to comment on how good he was. But yeah, I guess looking at his stats, he was pretty decent. But in terms of his move to Arsenal Football Club, according to The Athletic, they say that Arsenal have genuine interest in the Juventus midfielder Arta, but nothing is finalised. A January signing as centre forward may be a possibility, but between the two positions, this is the one more likely to drag into the summer. But at the same time, in terms of all the current reports, they are saying that Arsenal are pushing for a brand new striker, and they are putting a lot of money on the table as well. But in terms of that saga itself, I am getting sick and tired of it. So let's just say Arsenal were to pull out of the deal, would they then reallocate those funds towards a brand new central midfielder? And with Juventus stalling on Artemelo because they still need a replacement, could Arsenal move on to other targets? And could they potentially move for Brighton's Malian international, Yves Bissouma? Because according to French reporter Fabrice Hawkins, Arsenal are interested in Yves Bissouma, but it will take a big offer to take him away from Brighton. Making a cheeky little reappearance on the transfer FC is Mr. Yves Bissouma. Now in terms of the player himself and on-pitch ability, us guys on this channel have discussed them quite a few times, and even in terms of the last transfer window, it was confirmed that Arsenal had negotiated behind the scenes with the player's agents, so Arsenal clearly do have a pre-existing interest, but in terms of the player himself, unfortunately there has been quite a bit of off-field scandals. But in terms of the player's contract right now in Brighton, it expires in 18 months time, so with that kept in mind in terms of Brighton, if they want to sell the player, this could be the prime time. But with the off-field scandals as well, what do you guys make of the player that is Yves Bissouma, and is he a player that you guys want to see Arsenal sign? According to reports in Egypt, Fenerbahce have asked Arsenal to set a date to negotiate the transfer of Mohamed Elneny. Even though right now Elneny is at AFCON, in terms of his Arsenal contract, it expires at the end of the season. And so with that kept in mind, this is actually Arsenal's last opportunity to cash in on the player. But with the player currently being unavailable due to AFCON, as it stands, the chances of any transfer is very difficult. And so going into a very important second half of the season, some guys could argue, are Arsenal in a position to let go of a player like Elneny in the first place? But in terms of myself, if a suitable offer was to arrive, then in terms of the Egyptian king, I'm going to say hasta la vista, Mohamed Elneny. But talking about Arsenal midfielders, according to reports in Italy, Granit Xhaka doesn't seem happy to have stayed at Arsenal, and could run into the arms of the special one Jose Mourinho in the summer, who is interested in the player and continues to court him from afar. The image of Granit Xhaka running into the hands of the special one Jose Mourinho isn't quite an image that really wants in my head. Now in terms of the specific report, I'm not sure how reliable these guys are, but in terms of myself, I've always kind of said that I don't think Xhaka does have a long-term future at Arsenal, because in terms of Mikel Arteta, he wants to transition into that 4-3-3, and Xhaka isn't a player that can play as a 6 or play as a midfield 8. So with that kept in mind, I wouldn't be surprised if Xhaka was to leave Arsenal, but I think this would be more of a summer transfer. But what do you guys make of Granit Xhaka, and is he a player that you guys want want to see Arsenal sell come of course the summer transfer window. Okay, and moving on to the other Arsenal news today. And starting off with Arsenal's Spanish right back out on loan, we're talking Mr. Hector Bellerin, who was speaking on the Righty House podcast today, says, Arsenal are doing amazing and that makes me so happy. The player they got at my position, Tomiyasu, he is doing great. No hard feelings. It is beautiful to see because I still watch every game and I want the guys to do well. A shout out to Mr. Hecky B, because it's very rare in the current day of football for a player to actually shout out and praise the player that replaced him at his ex-club. And the fact that he's also praised Arsenal Football Club despite of a lot of fans abusing this guy. For me, it says that Hector Bellerin is a classy person off the field and I respect that. So you know what? Shout out to Hector Bellerin. Moving on to a bit of official news, Arsenal youngster Brooke Norton-Cuffy has joined League One side Lincoln City on a loan deal until the end of this season. In terms of Norton-Cuffy and the type of player he is a very promising right back coming through the Arsenal Academy. So the fact that he's now moved on loan to a team fighting relegation in League One, in my eyes, is actually a bit of a positive. And that's because for defenders to improve, sometimes relegation teams that are constantly under the cosh actually works out best for them, because not only are they asked to defend more, but they also have to improve their concentration. But also in terms of Arsenal right backs, now yes, we have Takehiro Tomiyasu, but after that, Cedric Suarez is set to leave and Callum Chambers' Arsenal contract is expiring at the end of the season. So with that kept in mind, I would not be surprised if this was a tactical move from Arsenal. By loaning a young player down to League One, not only are you improving his concentration, but also most importantly his fitness and physicality. But in terms of the race for the Champions League places, well, in terms of today, Chelsea drew 1-1 with Brighton, and what that means in terms of the Premier League table is Chelsea remain third on 44 points, but in terms of Arsenal, 9 points behind them, but with 3 games in hand. Now I'm not trying to turn into games in hand FC because I've laughed at these guys for so long, but just on hypothetics alone, if Arsenal were to win all 3 of the games in hand, Arsenal will be on level points with 3rd place Chelsea. Now by no means are Arsenal guaranteed to win those games, but what it does is it once again puts into context how mad this Premier League season has been. But be sure to let me know your own thoughts on the top 4 race, and do you guys potentially, just maybe have an eye on 3rd place Chelsea? Your boy is simply asking the question. According to reports in the UK, Arsenal are optimistic the Carabao Cup semi-final 2nd leg against Liverpool will go ahead as planned on Thursday night. It is not only a gargantuan game for Arsenal, but we also have some gargantuan Arsenal team news. Because as Charles Waters confirms, Martin Odegaard has now been able to return to London Colney training base, and the club are hopeful Emil Smith-Rowe and Takehiro Tomiyasu could be fit enough to return versus Liverpool. Bukayo Saka, Kieran Tierney and Callum Chambers are all hopeful of being past fit. But even with all that massive team news, Arsenal are still without a senior midfielder, so it's still going to be a very difficult game. But talk to me about your own thoughts going into this game, and do you think Arsenal will be able to beat Liverpool and progress to the Carabao Cup final? But that is the video there and there. If you guys have enjoyed, make sure to go down there and smash a like on the video, and also do subscribe to your boy's channel if you are new. If you would like to follow your boy on them social medias, then the links will be down below in the description. But that was the latest episode of the Transfers FC, and again, this Dusan Vlahovic saga is constant, it is boring, it is jarring. Arsenal just give us some closure. Anyways guys, I'll see you next time. Liverpool on Thursday in a bit.